Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Buenas noches, damas y caballeros, chicos y chicas, niños de todas edades, y bienvenidos a el Karey Carbaugh podcast. Welcome to the Karey Carbaugh podcast. My name is Karey Carbaugh, and hence the name of the podcast. This is episode number 14. I do apologize. No, I'm sorry, episode number 15. I lost count. I do apologize for being a little bit late this evening again. I was having some technical difficulties. This may be a little shorter podcast than some of them. I was trying to come up with a topic, and I just love how life hands you a topic. You might have noticed the title of this one, and I'll explain that here in just a few moments. But I was at a conference last week for work, and this whole concept sort of came up, and I thought that would be a fun way to do a podcast. So let's dive in a little bit here, because you are someone's ancestor, and I'll explain what I mean as we go along through this here. As I've been explaining in some of my recent podcasts, we've talked a little bit about my personal journey, or at least a piece of my journey, as a person with a vision disability. We've talked about self-esteem and building your self-esteem. We've talked a little bit about seizing opportunities. Last week I talked about my opportunity to sing at Carnegie Hall in New York City, which was an amazing opportunity. If you missed that podcast, I encourage you to go back and take a look at it. But I'm going to tie some of this together, I think, with tonight's podcast, and perhaps set the groundwork for the next few. But before we jump into that, if you would let me know whether you're watching this live or on the replay, either put a live or an L in the chat if you're watching this live, or put an R or replay in the chat if you're watching on the replay. And as we go along through this, let me know if you're getting value from this. I always like to know whether the messages that I'm coming up with, that I believe God is dropping in my lap sometimes, like this one, I always like to know if they're resonating with people. So please let me know if you're getting value, if you're relating to any of this. That's always helpful for me for future podcasts. And if you have any ideas for future podcasts, I would welcome that as well. I've gotten a couple of ideas from a couple of friends of mine. Some of them I've already integrated, and some of them will be upcoming very soon. But tonight's podcast, what does all this matter? Your personal journey, seizing the opportunity, having a positive self-esteem, making the most of each day. Why does all that really matter? Well, it matters for a few reasons. First of all, seizing opportunities and taking advantage of special moments that present themselves can help boost your self-esteem, especially if you're someone who's struggling with difficulties. And who isn't? Whether you are struggling with a disability, whether you're struggling with challenges in your own life, whether you're struggling with the way the world is today, we're all faced with struggles. And so seizing those opportunities as they come along can help push yourself from day to day. They can help lift your mood and lift your self-esteem. But in the grander scheme of things, you are someone's ancestor, which is another way of saying, and I'd never looked at it this way until, as I say, this conference I was at where this idea was brought up. It's basically the same concept as thinking about leaving a legacy. If you think about what kind of legacy are you leaving, if you're not seizing opportunities, if you're not taking advantage of positive things that come your way, what kind of legacy are you leaving? If we shift our view for a moment to whose ancestor are you? Have you ever done a family tree? Have you ever looked into your own ancestry? Maybe you've looked back at your grandparents, your great-grandparents. I have a great-great-grandfather who immigrated from, I just drew a complete blank. He immigrated from, Denmark. He immigrated from Denmark. However, all of his paperwork says that he came from England because he was only 14 years old and came as a stowaway on an English ship. And he knew that the British, would not let a Dane on the ship. So he changed his name to an English name, changed his name from Hanson to Nelson. So my grandmother's maiden name was Nelson, although technically by blood it would have been Hanson. So there was something that I'm sure at the time seemed like a very simple action in his day-to-day life. But it changed the trajectory of our family tree for generations. As we look back on him and what legacy he left, he came to America. Otherwise, at least that portion of our family tree would still be in Denmark. Perhaps you have ancestors that have moved here from other places. Perhaps, as I know some of my friends have moved to this country from other countries. And that is something that can change the trajectory of your family tree. And so if we look at it not necessarily only from the perspective of how am I making choices that affect my life and my children and grandchildren, it really follows way beyond that. And the choices that you're making today are leaving a legacy. And so this whole idea of you are someone else's ancestor is the same concept, only looking at it from the future, looking backward. What will your children's 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 children see when they look at their family tree and see your name as their ancestor? And this is true whether you have a disability, whether you're struggling with physical challenges. That may or may not be written in your legacy, depending on how you live your life. Did you live it to the fullest? Are you living it to the fullest? These are great questions for all of us to ponder. And if you're like me, I don't have any direct descendants. I don't have any children. But I have nieces and nephews. And as I look at our family tree going backward, those aunts and uncles had an impact. Even though they weren't direct bloodline, as it were, in the strictest sense, they are part of our family bloodline and impacted the people that they came in contact with. So even if you don't have children, think about what kind of legacy are you leaving behind? Are you doing volunteer work? Are you contributing to society in a different way if you don't have children? Or even if you do. But for the moment, I'm talking to those who may not have children and it may not seem as obvious what kind of legacy you're leaving without children. But there's other ways you can make an impact and leave a legacy. Through charitable giving, through volunteer work. I know some friends are hoping to establish foundations. I know some people that have already established some type of a foundation or maybe work for a foundation. Perhaps you're leaving your legacy through your work. Many people, as we think of our nation's history or the history of some of the great companies that are around today, those people are ancestors of the country. Think of our forefathers, our founding fathers, or some of our large companies that have been around for generations. There's ancestors in those companies who left a mark. And so that's my question or my challenge for you tonight, is to think about what kind of a legacy are you leaving behind? How will your descendants look back on you as their ancestor? Let me know if you're getting value from this, if this is resonating with you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm always interested in knowing how these topics resonate with my followers and the people who are tuning in. That's basically the message I had for tonight. It's a little shorter than some have been, but I do appreciate you tuning in. As I mentioned before, let me know if you got value from this. Let me know if you have suggestions for future episodes. I'm always open. I'm keeping a list now. And if you're interested in being added to my email list, drop the word email in the comments, or shoot me a direct message with your email address. If you put the word email in, I'll reach out to you to get your email address. And then I can keep you posted on future podcasts when they're coming up, and some other events that I hope to start doing in the near future. So I'd love to add you to the community, and you can be part of the founding legacy of what I hope will be a strong community going forward. Alrighty. Well, for now, that's the message that I'd like to leave you with. And let me know if you got value. Until we meet again next week or on a short video in between times, have a great week, have a blessed week, and make it a special week for someone that you come in contact with. Do something good for those around you. Until next time, have a great day or a great evening, depending on when you're watching this. And we will see you next week on the Karey Carbaugh podcast. Goodbye for now.